All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Oh my God.
All right. Let's do the roll call, please.
Chuck Andrea.
Here.
Kim Duffin.
Here.
Ryan Fox.
Here.
Ryan Garrett. Bobby Lovett.
Here.
Ben Meeks.
Here.
Ron Scare.
Here.
Keith Scruggs.
Here.
Bert Sellers.
All right, we'll take a minute to look over the agenda. Under presentation, I'm going to talk just for a few minutes. Since it's myself, and I talked to Chris and some other folks. Just a couple of things I just want to cover. Mainly just give the chiefs some information they can take back to their respective agencies, pass on to the folks. Just things that have happened over the last weeks or couple 3 weeks and a month. So that won't take very long on the presentations. So any other additions or revisions to the agenda that anybody is aware of? All right, I'm going to take a motion to approve the agenda. Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Very good. All right, we'll look over the minutes now. Seen a couple of typos in there that I think Vice Chair Scruggs pointed out.
No, just the name, and then where it says soft building, so the number 2 on page 4.
Same thing on page 4.
Yeah. That's him next to I've been talking.
I was reading these yesterday, I'm like, it's been all.
Been called worse, right?
Yeah.
That's it. First off, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you every department that's represented here as well as everybody that does it every day. We couldn't do it without you, and everybody knows that. I run into the same situation with Mount Cross, being a member of that agency, as I do with the city of Danville, being a member of the running with the Danville Life Saving Crew. A couple things I want to bring up, just an observation. Radio traffic. We had a pretty hectic weekend, and I talked to Chris about it, and CCOM really had a hard time keeping up with multiple incidents going on. There was a lot going on. The destructive fire blares was on, multiple agencies responding. It was a lot of radio traffic. Brothel had an accident they had. It was actually on 360. I think Baxter had a cardiac arrest about the same. There was a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. Really what I want to stress to everybody is maintain radio calmness on the radio. Speak plain and clear, because the dispatcher sometimes it's hard to understand who's calling dispatch, who's calling whom. It also sets the tone for the call. When we get on those calls, we get out of control on the radio, or anybody on that thing we allow them to get out of control. You know, that changes the tempo for the whole call, and we have to reset that, because otherwise the whole call is spiral out of control quickly. And it makes it really difficult for those running the command post in that to try to gather that all back around, because it got pear-shaped really quick. Just be aware that we try not to use 10 codes as much as possible anymore, because that kind of went away after 9/11. You know, and I find myself still doing it, doing this for decades. I still find myself pulling 10 code out every now and then. But there are many people that don't understand what 10 codes are. They may not be aware of or know what they mean when you use it. So try to use plain language and plain simple text. I want to talk a little bit about responding. a couple of things, responding to the scene and then during transport also. So responding to the scene in a marked vehicle, you know, I'm an EVOC instructor, so this is kind of near and dear to my heart. I was kind of hoping Brian Draper would be here tonight, but he's not, so I was going to get him kind of, if he would, talk a little bit about this also. But Virginia Code 46.2-920 talks about certain vehicles that are exempt from certain laws in Virginia as they function with emergency traffic in regards to running calls. What I want to stress is a couple things. Every one of these out of the EVOC book have two words in capital letters, and it's due regard. It's all about due regard. The person that's going to determine due regard is the judge. That's the guy that or girl that's going to have the final say as to whether you use due regard if there's an incident or an accident. So we can't run breakneck speeds because we got red lights and sirens. We have to take into conditions, the road conditions, weather conditions, traffic conditions, everything around us. Because if we don't arrive alive or we don't arrive at all, we haven't benefited anybody. We have to put a tax on the system. The other thing I want to stress is when you're running emergency traffic going to a call or going to the hospital or whatever, anytime you run emergency traffic, if you're going to violate a posted Virginia law, whether it's speed limits, intersections, cross a double yellow line into head-on traffic, anything, you have to, by law, have the lights and the siren both going at the same time. If we fail to do that, and we have an accident, one, the department is on the hook. Two, the driver can be criminally charged in this. There are EMS and fire providers right now sitting in jail that were criminally charged because they didn't do what this said in Virginia. So we have to make sure that if we're going to do that, we've got to run lights and sirens. If we're not going to run sirens, cut the lights off. Doesn't matter. It's really not going to save you that much time anyway, truth be told. Studies have been done that might save you 30 to 45 seconds running lights and sirens versus not. Because some of these backcountry roads, people ain't got nowhere to go to get out of the way anyway. So you can't pass them. They got nowhere to go. It goes right up to the edge of the road. The edge of the road is trees. So they can't pull off. They can't move. You can't go around them by head-on traffic. So, you know, what are we going to do by trying to manipulate that truck and that piece of apparatus to make them maneuver? Besides, put ourselves, our crew, and that person, and the other public in jeopardy. Another thing we talk about when we're talking about when transporting patients in the hospital, we have to be careful. Again, the liability is on the driver. Now, the driver does what the provider back says. They say, hey, light up, let's go to the hospital. That's great. But if that patient is hemodynamically stable, which means you're a stable patient, you're running lights and sirens to the hospital, you have an accident, the driver for that could be criminally charged and go on the hook, as could the provider who told them to run the red lights and sirens. I'll give you an example. This one comes out of the city. I had to have a conversation with two of my providers in the city who ran emergency traffic to the hospital with a patient that had hemorrhoids. Coming in and Jeff laughed. That's exactly what I did when I heard it on the radio when they called the hospital. The hospital said you're going to triage on arrival, and they come by the building with red lights and sirens, wide open. I got in my truck, I followed them to the hospital, and they come out and we had a conversation about when you don't run red lights and sirens. Because if they hit somebody coming through that intersection, both of them could have been criminally prosecuted for that. So please go back and stress to your folks at your departments about how they're driving your apparatus. Because if we have an accident, God forbid we have an accident, we have one, the driver is the one that really needs to be concerned. You know, Tunstall years ago, they suffered one rollover truck, had a fatality involved. We don't want to ever duplicate that. That was a bad day in the history of Pittsylvania County. We don't ever want to duplicate that. Sometimes we get blindsided or we get tunnel vision on that call. We got to hurry up and get there. And I preach this every day to our folks in the city when I have our training sessions every morning, our tailgates. We can't get so focused because it's not our emergency, it's our job. It's their emergency. If we let it become our emergency, we've done something completely wrong. It's gotten way out of hand at that point. One other thing about driving is personal vehicles. Personal vehicles, by Virginia state law, can have 2 red or red and white flashing units. That's it. That's it. I've seen cars that have more lights than ambulances have on them. That is against the law in Virginia. It also gives you 0 right in your personal vehicle to violate any posted Virginia driving law, rule, or regulation. And when you turn that little backlight on, you don't have any authority over anybody. The problem is the general public doesn't know that. They see that red and white light flashing coming out, they don't know what you are. Are you unmarked? Are you undercover? They don't know. They don't know the difference between red and white and blue and red in Virginia. They don't know. So they try to make an evasive maneuver to get out of your way, and they wreck. Guess what? You're on the hook for that. You, the provider running the red and white light, you're going on the hook for that. And there have been providers in Pittsylvania County that were charged because somebody ran off the road, but they come up on them aggressively with their red and white dash light on, trying to take that right and authority away from that person in driving reckless, for lack of better terms. So please stress to your folks that. For the agencies here to do EMS, call reports by Virginia state regulations have to be in within 12 hours of the end of the call run. No exceptions. The state monitors that. You can get on the naughty list with the state. It can affect you if you try to go get grants. You try to do anything like that. You get on the naughty list, it can affect your ability to get funding through the state because you're not compliant with the regulations from the Office of EMS. So make sure 12 hours from the end of the run, you got to have a report in. It's a big deal. They do monitor. Talk to your providers about being very leery about talking patients out of going to the hospital. Patient wants to go, put them in the truck. It's not optional. And I'll tell you, Lifesaving Crew now runs 15,000 calls a year, and probably 3/4 of them don't need to go to the hospital. But if they want to go to the hospital, it's better to take them and they didn't need to go than not take them and the patient gets severely worse or something happened and or they die. And on the witness stand, we got to try to tell why we're talking about it going. Because that puts that provider on the hook, and that puts our license in jeopardy as providers. Now, you know, if Danville goes on diversion like they have, or Brecken goes on diversion, you say, look, if you're going to go, you got to go to Lynchburg. Tell them, be truthful with them. If they say, I don't want to go to Lynchburg, I don't want to go to Eden, I don't want to go to Moorhead, I don't want to go to Halifax or South, I don't want to go, I want to go to Danville or Brecken. We can't, they're on diversion. Then they say, well, I don't want to go with them. Okay. You gave them the realistic options, they refuse, you get the signatures, and you roll on. It's that simple. Please, please, please make sure as an EMS agency you're providing to know the protocols. They know what drug they can get and when, and why, and how much, and the right route. Because if they mess up, again, it looks negatively on the agency, but that provider can be on the hook and can lose their license to practice medicine forever if the Office of EMS gets involved. So make sure if you've got providers, if they're a newly certified provider, or they've changed their level of certification, make sure that they have been checked off on the protocol and understand what they're doing in the field. Because if not, it could have internal consequences for that provider and or that station. So I just wanted to thank everybody for what they're doing. Y'all, the chiefs, y'all run a great job. Troy Talley, coolest man on the radio over the weekend. 259, coolest man on the radio. I love to hear him on the radio. He does a great job. But make sure you encourage your other providers to do the same thing. You know, and you know, in incident command, I know Dean does this in command. He'll go tell providers they need to calm down. They're a little too excited. They need to slow down and calm down. I've seen him do that. So those are things, if we're running scenes, make sure that incident command keeps that scene in check. And don't let it get out of hand. Don't let the screen on the radio go on. Get that checked up pretty quick because that'll change the tempo of the call and get somebody hurt. That is all I had on the presentation. So thank you for that few brief minutes of covering a couple things. Fire and Rescue Association report, Chief. All you, sir.
Okay, we've at our last meeting, the chief's qualifications and rescue squad captain's qualifications were adopted. The SOG has been put in place and distributed to all of the agencies. The accountability system has been adopted, the name tags and the passport system. Mark started collecting the information from the departments, put the name tags together. There's been some question about the accountability board or a command board to go on the apparatus. I think that's going to wind up going back on the departments to purchase. That being said, that's in place. The rapid intervention team was discussed at the last meeting before last. Formed a committee to go back and look at it, bring back some recommendations. They did so, opened it up to the floor. Some more recommendations were fielded, and they asked that Mike Lee and myself sit down and that we would make some changes, bring it back to the next meeting. We're going to try to do so and send it out before the meeting so folks have a chance to digest that, come back and ask questions and move forward. There was a recommendation that once this was put in place, that we set up a training for chiefs and captains to tabletop and go through it and and then be able to take it back to their agencies and do the same. So I think that's on the right track, and that's basically all I have to report.
So do you have any idea what the cost of the accountability board are?
I don't.
We got it. That is a great system. It's awesome. Excellent work. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if everybody would have the same type board.
Yes.
So, I mean, that really needs to be reiterated. If we have to find a type board you like, Dean, then we can push that back to the county and find some money somewhere. I mean, it can't be that expensive. Take care of the boards, everybody. If you don't have a universal system, it's not going to work universal.
Chief, I appreciate y'all working understanding you too. Thank you. All right, other fire or EMS agency reports, do you have anybody on the agenda tonight for that? Okay. County staff report, sitting in for Mr. Smith, Mr. Lee.
Mr. Slip is in class all week, so that's why I'm here. He's doing some time for his environmental education certification. We completed an inventory of all equipment at the departments, being turnout gear, SCBA's, SCBA bottles, and apparatus. We're going to start fit testing again, and during that fit testing, we finally got the Scott and the MSA masks in. So if you need a small or a large, we'll have that for you.
Scott's already in?
Scott's already.
I need to get mine.
What side of that?
Chris has got a list.
Okay.
I've been asking for months.
We've also got the test kit for the N95s, which we're going to probably offer to do for the if they want that done also. The training officer position, in the study that was done, it was recommended that the county hire a training officer. Well, we've been able to hire a part-time training officer, and I want to go over what he's been able to do since he's been here just, I guess, for about a month and a half. We're going to have 2, maybe 3 firefighter 1 classes. One is going to be a new hybrid type, which will be somewhat virtual with some hands-on. Looking for a hands-on firefighter 1 class up north and one down in the southern area. First part of next year that'll happen. The hybrid class will start in November, hopefully. The fire academy that we tried this year for the first time, they're taking their final class tonight, and that'll be a really, really good thing. I think there's about 20 students in that class, so we're going to put hopefully 22 certified firefighters out there tonight. Implementing Target Solutions online training. Those of you in the city and some of the county people are already familiar with Target Solutions, but it's really going to help to the EMS providers that the county's hired because they can get their content at the station while they're on duty. And same for the volunteers that have gotten an account. That's working really well for us. For 2021, we've asked the state for 10 fire program classes. Some of those being the driver, pump operator, aerial pump operator, leadership 1, 2, and 3, and Mayday firefighter now. Just to mention a few, but that's what Scott's been working on, part-time training officer. He's been a real asset to us so far. I foresee that getting even better. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right. Under unfinished business. So, at the July meeting, we established a bylaws committee. You can look at the Fire Rescue Commission bylaws. In September, they proposed the proposed changes presented. There were some other things that just need to be tweaked, if you will, in those bylaws. So those have now been tweaked, to my understanding. And at this point, I think we're ready to present the new bylaws that have been written there. I see it. Okay. So everybody in their package should have a copy of those. Are there any questions?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Bottom of page 3, top of page 4,
2 and 3, bottom of 2 and top of 3. All my words out now together. I don't know whether everybody's read like that or not.
Mine is too.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure it's benign, but, you know, that's...
Yeah, on minor mangle too, I think somehow what Chris said we mangled it. It just says the meeting location shall be determined, I think, at the, either the commission organizational meeting or the call of the meeting, like we're going to change that spot that we would,
That's what I've got in the long one that I printed out of the change, that's correct. And struck through there was that it would be held in the county administration building conference room at 6:30 p.m. I think basically give us freedom to have a meeting where we need to just be stated and it's enough to act. I don't say anything about those bylaws. So it's coming from a committee, it already comes to this body with a motion, has a motion with a second behind it, because there's 3 people on the committee. So at this point, we need discussion about these bylaw changes. Now, we had one with the letter of gentlemen together, we used to explain that. Is there anything else we need to discuss in reference to these changes before we take it to a vote? All right, all in favor of the proposed bylaw changes, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Very good. Thank you for the committee that worked on this off. Thank you for your diligence on that project. You have done. Strategic plan update. We go to Mr. Lee again.
May I skip back to public safety?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Case, do you have anything to report on EMS? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I did.
It's not a problem.
A lot's been going on. It's been working really well. And I hope the volunteers know what it's been about.
Very good. How she does.
Yeah, I figured.
ESA.
ESO?
Yeah.
Oh, good. ESO. Hopefully we'll be up and running. I think that the target date is January, no later than January. We're really excited. We've seen a little piece of it. Casey and I haven't seen it before. I know Roswell uses it in some of the other departments and they really like it. Callus. But hopefully that's working well. Everybody's working well. Let's get that.
Do you need anything? We need the agencies for. I know there's some data that they have to go in and set up. Everybody pretty much in track any lines.
They are. ESO has a program manager, and she's been reaching out to the departments. She needs
There's a whole lot to it.
So, yeah, it's a whole lot to it. But I think it'd be really worthwhile.
You're going to enjoy it once it's all said and done. That's software.
Awesome. That's why so. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
The only thing that Chris wanted me to go over with the strategic plan, Dean touched on a lot, was, we did, you all came up with some ideas on officer standards, vehicle operations, fire gun academies, so on and so forth. But now he wants some more. He wants some more input from you all. What can we work on next? Because, as Dean stated, these have been pretty well taken care of. And he would like some more input to go forward. Does anyone have any ideas or suggestions as far as what's next?
So we take a hard look at doing a needs assessment across the county for apparatus and include what they're responding to, what they're actually doing, and what's needed.
Can you give me anything?
He come to my station and look at the apparatus condition, look at the actual data of what the trucks are running, how much of it is actually needed, is there a need for something more?
Different type of apparatus.
that one, Christopher?
So, did you see that as falling in the capital inventory and development priorities and apparatus equipment standards for engine tankers, brush trucks, SCBA's? You think it fall in that?
I would think yes. I mean, I don't need to address that, we need to look at it and decide, what we're really gonna do. Another one I'd like to see, including that, is to start developing a specification for turnout gear, monitor, this type of stuff, and try to get some competitive pricing based on the book.
You also got one B here that's talking about development of apparatus standards. So maybe something the chiefs can get together, the association level, to figure out what is it that the county needs, countywide, where everything can interact and interoperate with everything else. Anybody else have any other strategies they'd like to present, suggestions on that?
So, Chris, Mr. Smith, is he saying that the actions needed under the top section there, that all those are now done?
Yeah, definitely.
There it is then.
I think these are goals for us to meet. And you would like suggestions that you might have or any other goals that we can work on? I think these are more than enough for the time being.
Well, they are, because the other piece, for me at least, would be, once we put these things in place, we need to have an avenue to go back and make sure that they are working. Because just like the SOP is handed out, it's not some kind of check, it's balance in place. We have the same issue. I mean, what Chairman Price was talking about, the vehicle operations and driver eligibility and those things, probably talked about tonight, but we're not even, it sounds like we're having some issues with it. We need to make sure we correct those problems. Maybe before we move on to a lot else, would be my thought.
Creating, for lack of a better term, a personnel handbook. Because I see down here you talked about members' conduct, written companies, instant command, and it's not agency specific, because all the agencies should be following the same ICOs. The written company's going to be that way, it's going to be that way for the county-wide, and establish how that process works and all that. And actually, so if a member comes to the function, pick on Florida tonight, the member comes to functional, and Joe is toward the hand of a personnel handbook, that explains not necessarily how Tunstall functions, but how Tunstall functions with the rest of the county. And that would be kind of standard across the board. Every agency has the same handbook they hand out. And you can put things specific to Tunstall in there as far as what you expect in your apparatus rolled out, how many personnel you want in each truck. You have those kind of standards for your individual department. But working with other departments as far as the interoperability, the apparatus standards, the fireground accountability, all that, that's going to be a countywide thing for a standard. As Meek said, it's going to be standard, it's going to be standard. That would be in everybody's manual. So then as these agencies do training or remedial training through the years and recurring training, the same thing is rolled out as a consistent message across the county. And that way I think you can blanket it evenly and it doesn't leave a lot to add with it because it's all in the book. and every agency has the same book with a few twists that are specific to their individual responses. And all of these subjects can be covered universally across the board, same curriculum.
I think, for instance, mutual aid responding individual goes to attack on. That's where they go. And that would be the same for everyone.
Just like a good idea. With Target Solutions coming in, I'm just kind of using an example. So an agency gets a new member. Part of that is they're going to do some kind of orientation with their members, with their department. They're going to get a Target Solutions ID. The training division for the county kind of create a county orientation. They go watch this, it's part of your Target Solutions. It kind of addresses that handbook. But it also, then you've got the record that they took. And it's not something that's, getting them together, having to do a training class, where you only do it once or twice, every other month or something. Since we do have Target Solutions, that's a good platform to put that. Kind of a welcome to the county system.
How customizable is that? Because I know the crew we use, but we use just the predetermined programs already. We don't go in and
Create
customize.
whatever you want.
Create any training.
You can upload it to, you can upload your own personal training video and send it out. You can do whatever you want with it.
I mean, I hear, Caleb to help with the audio visual part of it, and just, because we use our audio visual, Mark Aaron from River City TV, help us make videos all the time.
Anything it says to create standard operating procedures and guidelines for the list of items. We need to go back and do the standard operating guidelines for the rest of them so that we can develop that handbook from those guidelines. I mean, at the end of the day, and I don't know if it's just officer standards, we've done it for chiefs and captains. Is that where we want to go, or do we want officer standards for every officer in the department? At the end of the day, I think we want to suffocate something. Just to put it polite. Because I don't think they have that group's full from right now.
So who, maybe I can answer that with a question. Help answer. So in your department, now let's use players, y'all do a really good job now. So in your department, who, if you weren't available, who would be the next person that could be that commander? Were they captains or?
All of my top 5 officers, the 2 captains and 2 lieutenants. And I'm blessed in the fact that one's got 30 years experience and the other 3 career officers. But I mean, some don't have that capability. But I guess what I'm getting at, we developed a standard for the chief officers, and I think that'll trickle down. But that being said, why would we go ahead and try to put together an SOG for the vehicle operations and driving eligibility to incident command and the membership conduct?
Put it all in one packet.
We'll do 3 more SOGs and then from that develop a handbook that folks would know
I agree with that.
what's going on. That way it's done on policy. One guideline.
It was the low Target Solutions, then you can actually require that every year from your folks, that may help business as far as the insurance rate goes. You've got that ongoing continual training path that have to meet every year.
Well, plus, if you put a document, Target Solutions, they don't necessarily have to read it, but they got to click the box and say, I got it. So they've been there, they've seen it. Granted, I can't make anybody read it.
So out of the list there that actually needed to, like Sheriff Scruggs was talking about officer standards, we feel pretty good. She thought about looking at some.
From what the body in the association, I would say right now, that's kind of where they wanted it Tad is with the chief officer, one responsible.
How do you feel about it? You good with the controller? Is there a representative?
I'm representing them, yes, I agree.
So, we got fire room, you think it should go, you put that tactical officers, and you put them on your secretary, those people, overwhelmed and stuff. How deep could you go from a tactical officer?
Well, and I mean, that's something, who's here? Troy's here, Ray's here, James is here. You know, some have a chief, assistant chief, a captain, and a lieutenant. Some have 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, some have 2 assistant chiefs. That being said, you know, I don't know how to answer that right now without, if we're gonna go further, or if we're gonna look at further, we need to go back and try to look at how folks are set up to, and I know the next word is gonna be, we need to standardize that, you know.
That may be difficult, because a lot of them are based on the bylaws.
Well, and that's what we're getting at, all of them are incorporated.
Yeah.
Election.
I mean, you know, we can handle that, hand out a recommendation, but let's take the extent of it.
So we say chief officer, does everybody chief in their name, regardless of assistant deputy?
Right now, he's the fire chief and the EMS. That's the way it works.
Say line officers. Could be line officers and it could be recommended that they do this.
So the officer standards, fire accountability, and RIT.
They've been addressed.
And then RIT.
Rick's still in the process, but I feel comfortable it'll be pretty, I think it'll be done by the end of the year. Would y'all say?
And vehicle operation, driver eligibility, vehicles, and anybody's definitely done it, they got a host of resources, they're really good about working with that. Their driver eligibility, you know, some say, some insurance don't want you to drive till you're 21, some want you to have 5 years driving experience when you drive an ambulance, fire truck. But I think the vehicles is really good about leaving to the discretion of the agencies that are insured that if you say your person's competent enough to do that and you run through the ELOC training, they're good. Yeah, vehicle operation, driver eligibility. Chief, how do you think, what do you think the take rate would be to get an ICS 300 license in this area? So that
It's gonna be really tough because it's about to be spaced out on nights and weekends. And that's what's gonna be tough.
that's 2 days or 3 days? 3 days.
It's really too loud.
You guys are working on one, aren't you? Are you working on one?
In now, yes, sir. Trying to get one. So yeah, 300, 400 is 16 hours. It's 2 days, right? And 400 is 2 days. Yeah, that's the reason I was asking about what you think the take rate might be. We're trying to get one in day for right now and get 300. To get some other life-saving crew officers run through that. I said, you know, we have bolts and numbers, we roll that out and maybe label to some of the county officers as well if they like.
I'll be honest with you, been operating day to day in Reagan, can tell me I'm crazy when I get through. At the end of the day, for somebody that's out here running calls every day, ICS 300 is useless. Because you get so high into the spectrum, they need to understand what it is to have a division. They need to understand what it is to assign a group and even down to the fire department, they stay with that group. That being said, they down and dirty incident command, tabletop / hands-on, the old days where you picked the portable radios up and walked everybody through it. That would be more beneficial right now than some of those. As Mike says, that leadership 1, 2, and 3, and fire officer, the company officer place, that stuff would be great.
You can put it out.
Would y'all agree?
So the ICS is the old ones. It's just, it's like, they took the test to take the test. And we all know that once it's been on the person.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the takeaway from it, unless you've actually gone to the fire academy and sat down and taken it, it's pretty minute. Some of us can use it every day. Now, if you have a major incident and you want to recoup federal funds, you better be getting one.
Everybody pretty much agree with the next three items we need to look at: the vehicle operations, driver eligibility, instant command, and mental conduct. Gotta go ahead and knock off that whole 1A section, Jack.
I'm gonna intervene. We're gonna work on these after the first of the year. I want to get this rapid intervention in place and do some training and then we'll start on these if that's okay.
And I can cover that vehicle driver eligibility. I mean, I've got some stuff we use in the city. I may be like skeleton to build on some other reasons. I won't. Without that yet.
Well, and I think the FIS offers a program that we can use for the training side of it, on along into a new drug and go for it. We already pay for it, so I'm using it.
Anything else on the strategic plan for you? New business, supervisor communication, supervisor experience.
I appreciate that, thank you, sir. At our last board meeting, we passed a resolution concerning how we handle dealing with Franklin County in Bull Branch. The resolution pretty much explains the steps we've taken. I guess for almost a year we've been trying to deal with Franklin County to come to some kind of agreement. And the gist of everything, there's three solutions that we're looking at. For me, the most beneficial to the county is taking over doing a boundary line adjustment, which would allow us to incorporate part of Franklin County into our county, and we would have full control of that. Pinhook area is basically where we're talking, as well as it would maintain our responsibility, so we would not have to have this agreement thing going back and forth. I seriously doubt that Franklin County will go with that one. One of the other options is to do what I call costs to Franklin County for every call we make, and there's I guess the last option is just having them increase their funding and which is all we've been asking for from the beginning, was just increase their funding to Bull Branch. So the last update I had, as of today, we still have not heard anything from Franklin County. So I guess as far as the Board of Supervisors is concerned, we signed another extension till December 1st. And if we can't come to some agreement, we'll probably suspend service to Franklin County. And I think we've kind of been over backwards trying to get something done, because it's, for us, it's been really unfair for us to take on that kind of responsibility with the amount of money that they're paying us. I think 60% of Bull Branch's calls go to Franklin County. And to me, it's just a fairness thing. So I don't think the board's going to put up with too much more of this. Just to give you guys an update on that. But if you haven't seen it, the chairman of the board put a pretty good letter to the editor out there. I think it really details our position and all the options. So if you have not seen that, you might want to look that up. I have a copy here if you want to read it. But I think Chairman Warren did a pretty good job explaining our side of things. Again, if Franklin County would just work with us a little bit, that's all we've asked from the beginning. And it just doesn't seem like they want to deal. Any questions? I'm not supposed to ask that, but.
All right. Right down the list here.
Supervisor Spears, anything you say?
Yeah, I think that covered everything I need to. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lee? Mr. Meeks?
No, I don't think I had, Mike, could you get all the commissioners a list of that inventory list?
Yeah.
That way they can just kind of put their eyes on what everybody has and what may be needed in the future. Kind of
Chris is putting that together, a report for you all.
Thank you. That's all I have.
One thing I got, because I wanted to ask Mike, on the pit testing, is the county, when you said that, it kind of just sparked my interest. And it kind of goes with some of the stuff that the chairman talked about at the presentation. Are we going to follow, I mean, is that our goal is to follow OSHA guidelines and make sure our pit testing is done countywide? Is that?
I think it started out that we offered the fit testing to the departments because there was no commission then. We have this that we can do for you. It's up to you whether you want it or not. And now we've got the N95 test kit. I can't tell you what Chris is thinking. I think, you know, I'm still at odds. How do we force players to fit test all their people? You know, maybe that comes from the commission, not from the office, not from the staff. Does that answer your question halfway?
Yeah, and I just, when we go down the road, we need to,
It was an option.
people need to understand what
Ramifications.
kind of liability they're taking on. I mean,
By fit testing or not fit testing?
not fit testing, fit testing, you know, because we had this problem with my current employer. We start fit testing, especially with these new machines. Facial hair is not going to happen. You got to cut it, it's not going to work. And this machine won't even pass you if you got it.
And so, unless you all change, we're using the same machine.
So it's, I just, you know, I can just see where that's going to irritate some volunteers. Maybe it needs to, I'll say that, because on the flip side, I would say that if I was over that organization, somebody got hurt, and the people, the insurance company, the powers to be come up and say, you know, I'm not giving y'all anything because the dude's got a full beard on and he went inside a house fire and everybody knows that's wrong. You know, I'm not sure I want to be the leader of that organization, but I also understand from the leader organization that the people are hard to come by. But you got to have that tough conversation sometimes. But
Maybe that's an SOG,
you know,
fit testing SOG list.
I just want to make, you know, if we go down that road, we got to keep on going down that road, I think.
I think our stand to this point has been, here's an offer we're making to you to fit test your people. And to even, we're trying to supply large and small maps.
Right.
Because most of them bought mediums with the pallets.
Right.
So that's been Chris's goal.
Yes, and that's the thing I had, I was just kind of, coming off what we was talking about on the drive. It's, we tend to forget we are volunteers, but in some cases, we're not a volunteer. We got to follow the same standards as any other career, because that burden, you know, we think we've got a law to protect us, but sometimes it gets to be, that's for simple negligence, and when it gets to be just blatant. You're right, people are in prison or their whole life has been destroyed because now they owe some family or their insurance companies owe some family money that they'll never be able to pay. So, unfortunately, we live in that lawyer's world. So,
Mr. Angier and Mr. Lovelace, just so you know, we go in a burning building facing us on. They're different sizes, and you want to make sure it's a good fit.
yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
So, but anyway, that's kind of all I got. We kind of segued off of what you were saying.
Maybe that's an SOG.
I think it's some discussion that the chiefs need to have. That's not my discussion.
Right.
That's just something that they need to have. See.
Hello, good to see you back, welcome. Glad to be here, but like I said, I'm sort of like a fly horse, in a Kentucky Derby trying to run with the other horses. I don't know enough to even stay behind them, but, it's gonna take me a while, so y'all bear with me. Yes, sir. Glad to have you. Vice Chair.
I'm good, thank you.
Only thing I had is our next meeting to be scheduled for the commission is going to be with Thanksgiving. Chris texted me that today and said, man, I forgot that. I will bring that up, just have a minute or two of discussion on that. So, any suggestions? Maybe pull it back a week? Can we pull it back a week?
Yeah, you just need to, we should notify the public, the change in 3 days before the meeting, we got to put a new notice. I personally probably will be traveling, so I won't be here, but don't let my absence impact you all.
So we're going to do it for the next 2 months.
In December too.
Yeah, in December, where Chris said we were slated to start talking about considerations for the fiscal year 22 budget in December as well.
Plus, you may not be ready to spill his guts every time.
So is everybody going to just back up 1 week for November, 1 week for December?
When's board supervisor meeting?
The third Tuesday of the month, right?
Only because it'd be conflicting in this room, wouldn't it?
17th.
So, yeah.
We're doing the 18th, Wednesday after that?
Yeah. They can be fine, 20th. Depending on the schedule they have here.
Want to go ahead and make a decision for December now as well?
Well, Mr. Fowler, when's the association meeting?
We're trying to move the week before the commission meeting.
Now we'll holidays, we get in the way of.
We've been doing it the Wednesday before the commission meeting.
Suggestions?
Personally, I think I'm good with 24th.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with either month. I don't do a whole lot.
Okay, stay the course. 24th of November, 27th of December. Anybody else?
I'm good though. I'm good. Everybody else is. Doesn't make it easy. Doesn't make it easy for you.
Just leave on the regular schedule. Tuesdays each month, respectively. Again, the last thing I've got is I want to thank all the chiefs out here that are here, Chief Fowler, the audience, thank y'all for what you do every day. We appreciate it, couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate you like working with you. So, anything we ever do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So, second. Be careful going on. Thank you.